I know at one point you had talked about that you were also involved in the fitness industry. And
yeah,
I mean, kind of briefly in and out. And I was too. I used to be a personal trainer. So there you go. So the moral of the story is, in order to be a TEDx speaker, you have to have change management and personal fitness on your resume.
And then not talk about it very much. And people just kind of figure it out in this roundabout way.
Sure. Why not? I mean, just so everybody knows, right? That's what you need.
Exactly.
Man. Well, see, but I appreciate that. Now we're talking about self-leadership. You were able to take these opportunities, right? Opportunity shows up when you do. You took these opportunities and you didn't go, oh no, I didn't. You said, well, yeah, maybe. Well, let's give it a shot and see what's the worst that can happen. So
it's interesting you say that, because I used to have this mentality where I really like to flip the script and say, well, what's the best that can happen? And instead of, hey, the worst that can happen is in fact not so bad, and kind of demystifying it and becoming a little less afraid of it, was more so about turning around and looking at, if I think about what's the best that can happen, it opens a very curious mindset, and opportunities show up when you start to think about best case scenario that otherwise wouldn't emerge if you thought worst case scenario. But what I found particularly interesting over the last couple of years in therapy, my therapist has encouraged me to also not lose sight of worst case scenario, because then what happens is we keep that curiosity of best case, but then we can start to plan for worst case in the event it does go that way, because life is not all butterflies and rainbows. In the event worst case scenario is in fact our reality, if we have had the foresight into, going down that path, we can start to plan for some of the roadblocks that may inevitably pop up. So now I find myself somewhere in between, where I think worst case about what could possibly happen, but I put my energy and focus on best case so that I can spot those opportunities sooner, seize them when they become apparent, and create them when they're nowhere to be found.
So it's kind of a mix of an offensive and a defensive mindset.
A little bit, yeah. I've never thought of it that way, but I love that.
Yeah, which is super cool, because you don't lose sight of either one.
Right.
There
was a quote, I don't remember who said it, but it was that opportunity is at the intersection of preparedness and luck. And I think by focusing on worst case scenario, you've got that preparedness, provided you are actually, taking into account some of the obstacles that can come your way and figuring out ways to get around them. And that luck really is, I think, generated from the energy that you put into investing best case scenario, because there are certain things that you may not be able to plan for, but that by simply opening kind of, quote unquote, the energetic door for them to find you, you get a little luckier when you operate from that space.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. As someone who came from the other side of things, because I was always oh God, I got to prepare for everything that's going to go wrong, which you are prepared, but can be overwhelming too, because I mean, how many different options can you come up with? And being able to get out of that mindset and more into what is the best that could happen? Suddenly you see opportunity where maybe you missed it before because you were too busy looking for the worst possible case.
Exactly. And one of the things that you and I have talked about, which is an analogy I often go back to, is worrying is like paying tax on a debt you don't know.
Yes.
You can worry all you want about worst case scenario, but you're paying this tax on a debt that may never be yours to pay. When in fact, that energy can be allocated into things that, doors that can be open for you.
Yeah. Which is actually very cool. That's actually been a paradigm shift for me, because it's like, why am I paying on this? I don't owe anything on this. Exactly. I'll pay it when it's due, if it's due. So yeah, it's funny because you and I do kind of come from the same way, but like from different points of view.